Hello everyone, in this video lecture, I'm going to discuss to you cellular injury and cell death. So in this discussion, we'll be covering what will be the outcome of the cell during cellular injury and what are the different types of cell death. Okay, so to start with, let us define what is cellular injury. So when we say cellular injury, this is the most common response of the cells in almost all types of diseases. So during cellular injury class, there is an alteration not only on the structure of the cell, but also on its function. This is brought about by the um, presentation of stress, and other pathologic stimulus. So we have here on the list in the table the different causes of cellular injury. First, we have hypoxia. When we say hypoxia, there is loss of oxygen level on that specific organ or on that specific cell. Next, we have this physical agent. This can be due to accidents, any form of physically induced na type of injury on the body. Another one, we have chemical agents and drugs that can be harmful into our body. We also have infectious agents such as the bacteria, the parasites, and the viruses. And then we have here immunologic reactions like allergies and genetic abnormalities. The abnormality comes from your parents, so it was passed to you during pregnancy. And the last one could be nutritional imbalances. So there is the homeostasis there is no homeostasis on the tissues that resulted to cellular injury. So with these causes, what can be the effect on the appearance of the cell morphologically? So the first and foremost manifestation of cell injury, or the earliest manifestation in cell injury, is the swelling. So there will be swelling in cells and organelles. And after that, there will be blebbing of plasma membrane. So this one is due to increase in the number of free radicals, and the plasma membrane will now protrude. So this one are called the blebs. Okay, protruding at the plasma membrane. And then we have here, after that, the ribosome will now be detached on the endoplasmic reticulum, specifically the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And then the last one would be the clumping of the nuclear chromatin. Okay, and right after that, this cellular injury, it can lead to cellular death. So as what we have discussed in the previous discussion, there are two types of cellular death. It can be apoptosis, or it can be necrosis. So we will be differentiating more about these two types of cellular death. So according to cell size, an apoptotic death, it will be reduced, while necrosis is enlarged. So there is swelling. And then for the plasma membrane is intact for the apoptosis and then disrupted for the necrosis. So this is our reference photo on what will be the cellular death whenever apoptosis and necrosis. And then for the cellular contents naman, apoptosis is still intact. While necrosis, there is enzymatic digestion, and the um, the composition or the substances inside the cell may leak out. And for the inflammation, there or adjacent inflammation. When you say adjacent inflammation, are the neighboring cells also infected or affected? So for apoptosis class, there is no adjacent inflammation? It's because it will be consumed phagocytically, and it will be yes, eaten by the neighboring cells. While necrosis, so there is frequent adjacent inflammation, it's because of the leakage of the cellular contents. Remember, the manner of death of a necrosis is the cell will tend to burst out, thus leading to leakage of cellular contents. Okay, more differentiation about these two types of death. For the nucleus, apoptosis, fragmentation into nucleosome-sized fragments, while the necrosis, so there is clumping, there is fragmentation, and it will result to dissolution of the nucleus. And for the cause of death, apoptosis, this one is physiologic. So the death of cell is destined. For example, our RBC. The lifespan of our RBC is 120 days. So after 120 days, the RBC is destined na mamatay. While our necrosis, this is pathologic. This is sudden death of the cell. This is brought about by a pathologic sources or origin. So death caused by diseases. Okay, in-depth description of death by apoptosis. So always remember, when we say apoptosis, this is triggered by a physiologic. And this one is induced by a tightly regulated suicide program in which cells are destined to die. So, activated enzymes that degrade the cell's own proteins and nuclear DNA. So, the advantage of this type of cell death class is it will prevent further damage of other neighboring cells, and it will prevent as well the growth of unwanted cells such as those cancerous cells. So um, there is presence of cleaved, there is active caspases. When we say caspases class, these are cysteine proteases that can cleave the aspartic acid residue. So once caspases is already present, this is a marker for cells that specific type of cell is undergoing apoptosis. So, cells break up into apoptotic bodies, which are tasty targets for phagocytosis. So, once the appearance of caspases, automatically it will be phagocytized by our phagocytic cells. And the the outcome usually of the cells that undergo apoptotic death is it is shrunken, and the cell membrane is still intact, the components is still intact, and there is no any form of leakage. The cause for this one, plus the reason for this one, it can be hypoxia, it can be due to physical agents, it can be chemical agents, or it can be biological products. So if it's physiologic, this one eliminates cells that are no longer needed or those that have served their purposes. So its time span is already finished. And a pathologic, it eliminates cells that are injured beyond repair without eliciting host reaction. A necrosis, on the other hand. So this one is triggered by a pathologic origin or cause. So the consequence on the cell is severe. Okay, so there is no benefits of having a necrotic death. It's because the neighboring cell will be injured due to the leakage of cellular components during the bursting of the cell. So the outcome of the cell that will undergo necrosis there is damage and inflammation on the tissue, the cell will swell and the contents will leak. So um, there are two different types of necrosis according to location or extent. The first one is focal. When we say focal class, there is the inflammation or the injury only happen on the certain area in the body, certain area of the body. While when we say massive, it is widespread. Okay, widespread. Okay. So we have different types of necrosis according to its appearance or morphology. Actually, we have five types of necrosis. The first one is coagulative. So the appearance of the tissue is firm because the architecture is preserved. So the characteristic of a coagulative ni organ is eosinophilic. The reason for this one is due to denaturation and precipitation of the cellular proteins. And the cytoplasm of the organ or the cell undergoes rapid coagulation. So this one occurs usually on affected tissue when vessel is obstructed, leading to ischemia, except if the coagulation occurs on the brain. So the main cause of this type of necrosis is really due to ischemia. Again, when you say ischemia, there is lack or low oxygen supply on that specific organ or on that specific tissue. So this one, according to its location, this is localized type of necrosis. And for the appearance of the tissue or the organ with this type of necrosis is it appears to be firm, looks like it was cooked, and the tissues will appear dull or dirty. So just like in the picture class, we have here the part of the kidney. So that is the yellowish part of the kidney that undergoes coagulative type of necrosis. The second one, we have the liquefactive. So this one is the tissue becomes liquid viscous due to digestion of dead cells. So there is rapid total enzymatic dissolution of the cells. This one can be usually seen in brain tissues with bacterial infection. And this can lead to pus formation. There is liquefaction, there is softening of the specific or infected part. So the it appears to be color or yes, creamy yellow because of the presence of pus. So in this one, this is the portion with liquefactive type of necrosis. And then the next one is we have the gangrenous necrosis. So this is considered as a massive tissue death. The reason for this one or the main cause of this one is ischemia. So this is maybe superimposed with bacterial infection. So coagulation plus liquefaction, this can result to a gangrenous type of necrosis. So we have two basic types of gangrene. We have the dry gangrene and we have the wet gangrene. So okay, let's discuss first the dry gangrene. So this is considered as a sterile type of gangrenous necrosis. And the reason for this one is due to arterial occlusion and ischemic type of necrosis. So there is a sharp demarcation line. When we say demarcation line class, just like this in the picture, we can see if hangtod asa ang gangrene. And as to the odor, it is less foul because there is less bacterial action. And for the occlusion, it is arterial occlusion. And um, the presence of discoloration clashes like this, it is color black. This is due to the release of black pigments or blood pigments. Okay, on the other hand, we have here the wet gangrene. So this is venous occlusion, and the other is more foul. The reason for this is there is increased bacterial action and plus ischemic injury. So that is why it is very odorous, and the appearance is parang nabubulok. Okay, there is no sharp demarcation line. As you can see in this picture, you cannot see is if up to what extent, hanggang saan nabubulok. Okay? And there is stagnation of venous blood. That is why the odor is more foul and more offensive. Okay, so the fourth type of necrosis is we have the caseous uh, necrosis. From the name itself, I think you can already picture out what it looks like. So it resembles a soft, friable cheese. Okay, so this one is characterized by a collection of soft and whitish gray debris that resembles a cheese. So if you are going to look at this picture, so this is the lungs of a patient with tuberculosis. So the cells in this type of necrosis class, the cells will die and will form an amorphous proteinaceous in which the resemblance is far to its normal appearance. So, granuloma. Another example is patients with granuloma. This can be the result. And the fifth one is fat. So, fat destruction due to pancreatic lipase. So, the pancreatic lipase class is released into the surrounding tissues. Therefore, it will split the neutral fats into fatty acids and glycerol without affecting the cell membrane. And so, the fatty acid that was separated will now combine to the calcium, thus resulting to a soap-like appearance, which are replaced by phosphoric acid. So this one can be usually seen for patients with pancreatitis. So this is an example of a mesentery with a production of adipose tissue or fats. And then, sorry, there are six. The sixth type is the fibrinoid. So for a fibrinoid naman na type of necrosis, this one is seen in immune reactions when antigen-antibody complexes are deposited in wall of arteries. So usually this is due to a genetic origin. So it involves your immune complex. So immune complex plus the fibrin, it can result to fibrinoid. So in this picture, this is a picture of an artery with an accumulation of fibrinoid. So its appearance histologically is bright pink and amorphous appearance in H&E staining. So those are the different types of cell death and its specific differentiation and the different type of necrosis. So if you have any questions, you can drop a message into your instructors. So for the references in this discussion, you can open the following references. So thank you everyone and have a good day.